Hello, this is Soundout here, and today we'll be talking about the top 12 action figures of the year. So let's begin. It's morphin' time! Now this list, of course, is my personal list. I ranked everything based on my personal enjoyment and engagement with these action figures over the course of the last year. Your list may be different. I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. There really was no modifiers here. I just decided to go with one per line. I also am going to cheat a little bit and include 3 honorable mentions, so think of it more as a top 15, but the top 12 are ranked accordingly, and I hope you will enjoy this. So let's begin. So the first honorable mention goes to the DC Multiverse line in general. There's been a lot of great figures, it's just none of them cracked the top 12 list. But my favorite was the Demon Knights Etrigan, because this is a design I've wanted in a figure form ever since I saw it debut in comics back in 2011. It's been a while, but I'm really happy to finally have a figure of Etrigan, not only in the DC Multiverse style, but in a design that I really liked. It just didn't stack up compared to the rest of the list. Next honorable mention, SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Eden. Now, there was a lot of Figuarts released this year, but I think this line's just been slipping. And Eden is probably the best of the Figuarts I bought this year. Specifically the fact that he's not missing any accessories or major details. A lot of the other 01 Figuarts are missing at least Progrise key detail, if not key accessories. And a lot of the Ultraman ones too. So Eden's my top pick, but again, not cracking the top 12. I think that Figuarts needs to start stepping up their game a little bit more. The last honorable mention goes to the Action Force Sergeant Slaughter. So Action Force is a similar line to G.I. Joe Classified in the sense it's a 6-inch scale military action figures. It's done by an independent company named Valaverse, and they got the rights to do Sergeant Slaughter. And this is a pretty great figure, design-wise, looks-wise, great. I'm not putting it into the top 12 because there's a ton of joints on it, much like a Classified series figure, except it's plastic stiffer, more like a NECA figure, and that kind of worries me, so I'm not exactly sure because I haven't had this guy long enough to know if that's an impactful issue. But I'm really happy to have him, and he probably will look good on my G.I. Joe shelf when I get that together. But yeah, Action Force, good start, but they can do some improvements, I think, on joint tolerance, because it's kind of weird at the moment, but still worth a mention on this list. So there was quite a few Transformers this year, so picking my favorite was kind of tricky. There were some really good ones, Grimlock, Scourge, Wreck-Gar was pretty great. Oh, all the Beast Wars stuff, that's really been my main focus. A lot of them are really good. But the one that took the cake was Slug. Slug wins the trophy for me. Leader class has been kind of weird with Transformers. We've had it recently where it's more of a Voyager Plus parts set, and I've really hated that. So it was nice to get a proper leader class figure. And the first one we got was Grimlock, and Grimlock was really great. Slug rolled up and did everything Grimlock did, but better, and that's why he takes the spot on this list. He's absolutely amazing. I was really hesitant about leader class Dinobots before, but I'm ready for the other 3. Bring them on. Let's do it. I'm hoping this is the direction Transformers goes in because this feels more substantial and more worth the money than a lot of what's come out in the last few years. So this next pick is kind of strange because I don't have the shelf set up for this line yet. I'm kind of waiting until I do my rundown video. But I love Masters of the Universe, but one of the lacking things when it comes to toys is the figures of the women. They always seem to be lesser and not as well made as the male characters, because it's been a very male-centric franchise so far. Well, this year's new line, Masters of the Universe Masterverse, provided actually good women from Masters of the Universe as action figures, and I'm very excited for what they're going to do in the future, especially since they said She-Ra's coming to the line. So Evil-Lyn, Teela were both really great, but the one that really was the winner for me this year was Andra. Andra's from Wave 3, she's the 3rd woman in the line. She is taking everything that Evil-Lyn and Teela did well, but did it better, and honestly, really great figure. We'll be covering this line more in a later video when I get all the figures together and do a giant rundown like I do with Marvel Legends or I do with Power Rangers. So stay tuned for that, but out of all of them, I think Andra was my absolute favorite. So the next spot on the list goes to Kickstarter Spawn. This one being the classic one, this one being the modern one, both being just fantastic. I mean, there are some limitations. The figure does have restricted movement because of its cape, but man, all the options, the accessories, the packaging, the presentation, it's just fantastic and it has to be on the list. And it spawned a whole new line of figures. That's a Marvel Legends Angela because of rights distribution issues, but still, point stands. We got a whole line of figures of Spawn based on that Spawn and this Spawn, and a very successful Kickstarter, so good job. So one of the things I really love about Power Rangers is their villains. A lot of the monsters, a lot of the characters are really cool. So when the Lightning Collection started doing more villains than Bandai ever did, I've been really excited. But one of my favorites, and probably my favorite figure of the year for the Lightning Collection, the Tenga. The Tenga is just fantastic. Brand new sculpt, really great paintwork, really nice accessory counts. This thing is so good, I have 4 of them. Currently just 2 are out. I have 2 others in box, but this thing is amazing. I can't stress it enough that when it comes to the Lightning Collection, it does get a little cookie cutter because of the nature of Power Rangers action figures, but the Tenga, they really brought their A game. If every figure was like this, this would be one of the most successful toy lines ever. But sadly, he's currently just a standout, and I hope that he becomes more of a standard because this Tenga figure is so freaking cool. I love it. As you guys may know, I'm a huge DC Comics fan. Says the guy wearing a Venom hat and an X-Men t-shirt, but I'm a huge DC Comics fan, and one of my top three favorite DC heroes is Dr. Fate. So naturally, the Mezco 112 Dr. Fate ends up on the list for the year because he's really dang good. I'm actually pretty impressed with Mezco 112. I haven't had any before, and honestly, pretty impressed with the cloth bodies. I wasn't sure about it, and I may have ordered a few other Mezco 112s, specifically Constantine and Superman, the comic Superman. But yeah, I'm really digging this. Probably the best Dr. Fate I've ever owned, and one of the best figures of the year. Absolutely. The almost I think it was $85 price point. Little rough, but I really do like the overall presentation. Very nice figure. Plus, he lights up. Light up gimmicks will always get me. So I love fighting games and I love action figures, which means I should honestly probably own a lot more Storm Collectibles figures, but they're about $100 a pop. I don't typically pick them up. This year, though, I did pick up 2. I picked up the Injustice Ares, and I picked up this spot's winner, Darkstalkers Dmitry Maximoff. For anyone that knows Darkstalkers, it's a fighting game franchise that was fairly prominent in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, and Capcom has basically ignored it for the last 20 years since the last game, and it's sad because I love Darkstalkers. It's myths, monsters, and legends fighting out in an arena tournament, and the characters are so cool, and most of them correlate to things we know. For example, Dmitry Maximoff here is a Dracula counterpart. He's the king of the vampires, and he is so cool, and I'm really glad to have a figure of him. Plus, he makes the list because Storm Collectibles has actually figured out how to add rubber coating to figures and it not feel stiff, weird. It doesn't restrict the articulation, and it doesn't feel like it's going to crumble to dust the second you touch it. I'm staring at SH Figuarts Ultraman Tiga right now because he's in a plastic case preventing any oxygen from reaching him because that figure will degrade instantly. If there's a worst figure of the year, it's Figuarts Ultraman Tiga. But let's not talk about him anymore because one of the best figures of the year is Dmitry Maximoff from Darkstalkers. And I can't wait for Morgan Ainsland to come out next year because, yeah, I'll take all the Darkstalkers, please. There's not that many. There's like 18 in total. 12? 18? Make them all, Storm. I'll buy them. You got me all in on this, especially with Dmitry being this good. Just so everyone knows, I wasn't joking about Tiga. They literally made the entire torso out of rubber, and it's the cheapest feeling rubber ever. It's already broken and cracked on several people just from posing the figure, and that's why mine's in a plastic case. Absolute worst figure of the year. What were you thinking, Banda? You can't do rubber well. Don't try with the first figure art of Ultraman Tiga. So I decided a NECA figure should be on the list. They have been improving in their quality a lot, and things don't break as often as they used to. Unless they're the Defenders of the Earth figures, those have been kind of rough. But I've enjoyed a lot more of their recent releases, especially based on movie licenses. And the one I was going to pick as my favorite was the Gargoyles Goliath. But having him in hand, his wings are just too big. I don't even know if they're fully in frame. I don't know where this guy's going to go. I know Bronx is coming with a folded cape for him, and that'll make him a better figure, but I'm really excited for Gargoyles, and I'm still going to get everybody from this line. But boy, Goliath's wings are real bad on the shelf real estate. So, for that, we're going to go with Frankenstein's monster. This is based on Boris Karloff's appearance in the original Frankenstein film. It's based on the colors from the colorized re-release poster. The movie wasn't colorized, but the poster was. I love this thing. This is absolutely 100% feels like Boris Karloff, Frankenstein's monster, walked right off screen and into an action figure. The colors are very natural. He's not green. He's kind of gangrenous. So he's got kind of that like dead skin look, more so than just a bright green. Very, very accurate to the film look. And the articulation really supports that. He's not super articulated, but he's realistically articulated for the portrayal in the movie. Now, surprisingly, this isn't going to be my favorite Universal Monsters figure on this list, so stay tuned for that. But out of all the NECA figures, let's go into Frankenstein's monster. So the G.I. Joe Classified series has been on fire this year in more ways than one. And again, we'll talk about that when I do the G.I. Joe rundown next month. But probably my favorite figure of the year. It's been a tough choice, but Major Blood. This guy is really, really good. I just love the way they've reinvented the character. It just made him as cool as he ever should have been. Love the robot arm. Just love his whole vibe in general. He is just one cool Cobra assassin. So honestly, out of every great figure we got this year, because probably the runner-ups would be like Barbecue, Lady J, but Major Blood, absolutely my favorite of the year. So the next spot on the list goes to a wonderful little indie toy that could, Plunderlings, Captain Teal. This guy is just the joy of delight on my desk now. He is such a happy little goblin captain, pirate captain, and I love him. I really do. Really nicely articulated. He's got, you know, sturdy plastic, but doesn't feel too stiff. He's easily posable. And it has the cutest thing of all. His hat is magnetic, so you don't lose it, and you can use it on any of the 3 heads he includes. Just delightful. I mean, Plunderlings has been going on for a little while now, and they've had a bunch of figures, and boy, you know, if you ever feel like you just need a little goblin thing for your desk, Plunderlings is probably where you should look. Absolutely can't say any more good stuff about it because he's just really great. I love his little magnetic hat. It's such an easy invention for the problem of hats falling off figures. But anyways, yeah, Plunderlings Captain Teal. So Thundercats Ultimates only had 3 figures released this year. It was Jaga, Captain Cracker, and Slythe. And Slythe is absolutely the favorite. And of course I was putting a Thundercats figure on the list. I will always put a Thundercats figure on the list if there's a Thundercats figure every year. But Slythe was absolutely the best one. Probably my favorite Super 7 figure of the year. This is kind of a general, like, not just Thundercats, but Super 7 slot. There was a lot of really great stuff from Ninja Turtles, but Slythe takes the cake. This is a character I've never had a figure of before, and he is just so good. He's really, really expressive, very well articulated, super detailed. Just, it takes that look of, like, you see Slythe, it's your mental picture of Slythe, but it's brought into a more realistic vibe, but not going heavily realistic. He's still incredibly cartoony, and that is the exact direction I hope Thundercats Classics is going in, or Thundercats Ultimates, excuse me. And it seems to be that's what they're doing, and I'm just super duper excited for all those other figures to ship whenever that happens, because factories have not been kind to Super 7. So, Slythe here, best figure for me from Super 7 this year, and just, oh, so good. He's just, I love him. He's great. This is pure action figure joy right here. So this number 2 spot might be incredibly surprising considering what company made these. But Jada Toys, the people that are known for tiny diecast figures or cars, made action figures this year. First time they've done action figures, and they killed it. They knocked it out of the park. So let's discuss all of them real quick, because oh my god, they went with monsters. Universal Monster Frankenstein, great figure, super chunky, incredibly articulated, really fun. We've got Dracula, who is also super great, and a really nice cloth cape that honestly I'm surprised works as well as it does. We've got a creature of the Black Lagoon that can pose insanely well. I mean, he's got double-jointed, triple-jointed everything. He's more articulated than some Marvel Legends figures. Someone was out of their mind and made Count Chocula and Frankenberry. And I love it. And I want Boo Berry and Yummy Mummy and Fruit Brute because we might as well just get all of them at this point. But the one who takes the number 2 figure spot of the year is the Bride of Frankenstein. She can ride her kick in a dress because for some reason they decided let's give her a fully sculpted, fully painted, completely detailed, double-jointed, triple-jointed body and then a cloth dress over it. She is combat ready. It's the Bride of Frankenstein. Her biggest thing she's known for in the movie she's from is being around 5 minutes, screaming and standing and looking crazy. But she can ride her kick people. She is way too articulated for anyone's logical expectations of a Bride of Frankenstein figure, and for that, she's the number 2 spot, because my god, that is an action figure right there. Side note, an extra honorable mention, because apparently this was the year of Universal Monster figures, Transformers Dracula crossover Draculus is not necessarily an amazing figure by figure standards, but oh boy do I love it. It's a Dracula Transformer, and he turns into a bat, and this cape is just cool. I'm talking way too much now. Let's move on to the number 1 spot. And my number 1 toy released in 2021 Duh. HasLab Sentinel. Like, how does this not end up as #1, right? Like, it's freaking amazing. Yeah, some people had issues with loose knees. That's easily fixed, luckily. Luckily, there's a fix for that as opposed to some other things. It's still really freaking cool. I mean, when it comes down to it, if I'm picking a Marvel Legend, it's the 3-foot-tall Sentinel, guys. I love this thing. This thing is so amazing. Nothing is topping this. Alright, if you want a normal Marvel Legends pick, it's the classic Hercules. Because it's Hercules. And he's one of my favorite Avengers, so Hercules. But otherwise, it's this. It's that. Not having any more debates. So that does it for my list of the best action figures of the year. I'm sure yours is different. I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and the notification bell. I typically upload 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This week I threw out an extra bonus video on a Thursday, so you never know what might happen. It's good to have those notifications turned on. And thank you to every single person out there who has ever liked a video, commented on one, subscribed, and hit the notification bell, or shared a link on Twitter. I appreciate all of you so much. You have helped me get through this year, and I really am very grateful. I look forward to providing even more video content for everyone out there next year. I have a lot of video ideas, and I look forward to making that, so I hope you'll join me for the ride. Also, be sure to check out Hero Club at hero-club.com for toy news and more. My awesome graphic designer on Twitter at darklaw643. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, Happy New Year.